All right, let's get started. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go along. My name is Bob Cohen. I'm a SCORE mentor and your host and presenter this afternoon. And again, thank you for sharing your lunch hour with me. Much appreciated. I hope that what we go through today will be of value for you. And I'd like to first start a little bit by talking about SCORE for just a minute to give you some ideas of some of the things that we can do to help you with your small business. First thing I'd like to say is that everything that we do is free. SCORE is part of a national organization, of course, called SCORE, and there are about 240 chapters around the country. Today, you're talking to me, and I'm in the Cleveland chapter. Hopefully, you all are in and around the Cleveland area. We do get visitors from many, many other places to our workshops. So again, there's about 240 chapters around the country. SCORE Cleveland is one of the bigger chapters. We've got about 90 volunteers. Everything that we do, as I mentioned, is for free. There are probably some 10,000 to 12,000 volunteers around the country in SCORE with all kinds of expertise in business that they've acquired over their years in business and working in their own careers as well as with SCORE. So um, just want to let you know that, we are here to help you. And there is no business that should not have someone out there to help them. Business people shouldn't have to go it alone. Our mission is to foster small, vibrant business communities through mentoring and education. And we do that by making sure that the people that we work with have all the support they need. So, there are times when it'll be we will mentor you one-on-one. Sometimes we'll bring in expertise. Sometimes we'll co-mentor with other people that have expertise that we don't in the fields that you're looking for. And as I mentioned, the 10,000 volunteers around the country kind of means that we've got expertise just about everywhere you can think of. So, you all know that small business drives our economy. About 50% of our entire U.S. economy is based on small businesses. And the thing that we're interested here in SCORE is to help with job creation and wealth building for you and for your families, so that everybody can be part of communities around the country. So that's really important. I mentioned that everything we do is free. Part of our support comes through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. About I don't know, 10 to 20% of our funding comes through them. The rest we actually raise on our own. So that's important in that we've got a really good relationship with the SBA, and you know how important the SBA is to small businesses and banking. So I wanted to bring up our website, which I'm going to go to live, just to give you some idea of some of the resources that are available through here. First of all, as we talk about starting your own business, and today's workshop is simple steps for starting your business. It's really important that you've got somebody that you can work with. So the best thing you can do is request a local mentor. And I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail on this, but if you go to the website, which is score.org and then /Cleveland, you then can go to the mentor request form and just fill out this form very quickly. There are several things that you can do besides just do this to get a mentor. You can also look at mentor profiles. They're online for you to see, so you can potentially ask for a mentor directly by looking at their profile to see what their special areas are that you can request. But I would say, and I will say this along the way in this workshop, that SCORE mentors are here to help you to do that. I'm going to go back one on this website and show you just one or two other things, and then we'll get right into our presentation. So obviously, if you've got something and you want to give back and you want to become a mentor, you can volunteer with us. We will train you and work with you, give you coaching on how to do that. There are templates and resources, and this is probably one of the best parts of what we do that you can go on. So if you're looking for a business plan template, you're looking for financial templates, there are many, many things here that you can find. And again, this is all free. Just go to the website. Workshops and events like the one you're on right now, you can look at recorded webinars. Everything we've done is probably recorded, and most of which is on our website. We also have a YouTube page where we record all of our workshops as well. You can look at upcoming events and workshops, and you can look at local workshops. You can look at national workshops. SCORE is doing workshops all the time. Our chapter does about 100 to 150 workshops alone, and then SCORE at a regional level and at a national level are constantly doing workshops. So there's some really good material out there online. So now I'm going to get out of this and let's go into our presentation. So the first part of this is a five-part series called Simple Steps for Starting Your Business. And I'll walk through all five parts of this. Is startup basics. Are you ready to do this? So the information that I am going to present is fairly high level. In other words, it's a 40,000 foot view, not tons and tons of detail. The detail will come over the next several weeks if you are interested in following up. There are materials for you to review. There's some homework to do if you're interested in doing that. And again, I urge you to work with a SCORE mentor if you are available to do that. And let's just start taking a look at what this is going to look like. So along the way, any one of the steps that you're looking at, you can work with a mentor on this. Today, we're doing startup basics. I'll walk through this. The idea here is to analyze your idea, analyze your business, look at other models that have been done, and we're going to actually use a case study to talk about this, particularly when we get into next week on business concept. The following week, we'll be talking about marketing and developing a marketing plan. Again, we're working from and you will get links. I'll show you the links in a minute to some of the information that's available. But we've actually put together a business plan for an organization called Ann's Nursery. Ann started a nursery. You'll see how that all works. And she did a business plan, which you will have copies of that you can review and work on. And it's a nice model that you can use to put together your own plan. And a lot of what Ann did in the way she researched it, the way she looked at her finances, the way she looked at her her marketing materials, and so on, are really going to be of value to you if you're starting your own business. So while I'm talking, would you mind? Let's see, we've got a bunch of people online. Would you mind telling me if you've got a business idea that you are trying to start, or if you have something that you've already started, are you already in business, or if you're just sitting here to listen to find out how you might develop your own business? Just throw a couple things into the chat so that I can take a look at those. And you will get copies of what I'm going through. And for each of the 5 weeks that we're doing it, you'll get copies of the slides and the recordings that go along with that, as well as the handout materials. So you should receive an email, I'm guessing tomorrow, with the materials on it. And also there are live links in the slides that I'm going through this afternoon. So we'll go into the marketing plan. Session 4 actually gives you some ideas of finance. One of the things that we find with our clients is that even if they're already in business, what they're doing from a financial perspective is, what we call shoebox accounting. Putting receipts in a shoebox, heading to their accountant at the end of the year to get their taxes done. And that's no way to run a business. You won't know how successful you are. You won't know whether you're making money or losing money. And if you're not planning properly with finances, you easily can go out of business in a matter of a short time. And then funding options. So the last portion of the last session here, we're actually going to talk to you about multiple funding options and what to look for and where to get them. SCORE itself is not a funder, but we can work with you on funding your business with the organizations that are, whether it's a bank loan or your crowdfunding or several other possibilities that are out there. We've got some expertise to talk to you about how that all works. So I'm just going to take a real quick look at what came in on the chat. Um, so, um, so somebody is saying that they could definitely use multiple mentors, that they are looking for grants and needs potentially somebody that would help with their business specialty. Um, well, Grant Score does not provide grants. We can help you look for grants, and there's ways of doing that. And there are several grants that are out there. Startup businesses find it difficult sometimes to get the financing that they need to get started. We can help you with that as well. Um, so we've got some transportation companies, transport, residential tech and repair, and somebody's got an artwork business that they've already started up, a nail salon business. So what I'll try to do as I talk is try to make it relevant to some of these businesses that you're just talking about. So let's move on. And I'll watch time. We've got about 45 minutes left. I'll try to leave some time for Q&A. It's going to be tight. I can stay on as long as necessary to answer questions if you like. So today we're going to talk about some of the benefits of this workshop, some of the myths and realities of entrepreneurship, critical success factors, knowing some of the options in terms of how to get a business up and running and started, some of the legalese that you might need to work through. Some people, it looks like, have businesses up and running already, and some may not. So I'll try and work the timing around getting enough information out there. A little bit of self-assessment and then some next steps. So here's what I wanted to let you know. You should get an email with this information in it. But I talked about Ann's Nursery. It's an actual business plan that we put together around what we're going to talk about. And everything that we talk about over the next several sessions will be related to Ann's Nursery. Legal forms of business. So there is a handout sheet that will talk about that. And I'll talk about that as well. Vision statement. That's just something that you ought to take into consideration. Look, I know if you've got a business up and running already, you may or may not have a vision statement. Wouldn't be a bad idea to think that through, because that will help inform some of the other decisions that you make in terms of direction, finance, business planning, marketing, and so on. To have a statement of your vision, your mission, what you're trying to accomplish. And then there's a self-assessment readiness, self readiness assessment, and then a SWOT analysis that will be something that you want to take a look at. And we'll talk about that when we get to the marketing side. There's other things as well, other handouts that you'll be getting. And in the next session, there will be handouts in there as well. Not as many. I think the most handouts you get will be in the marketing session. So we're going to talk about how to develop your feasibility plan or your business plan. We're going to take you through some decision-making process. If you're starting a business from scratch, or if you've already have a business, let's talk about the feasibility. If you're starting a business, is it a go or a no-go decision based on your idea and some of the things that you're working on through these workshops? Has the core information, do you have the core information to really complete a good business plan for bankers and investors? And even if you're going for grants, if you're going for investments, if you're going for loans, if you're going to banks, you need a good business plan and you need a good financial plan. And grants are going to want to know how you're spending your money, and you're going to want to know what the results are after, in fact, you get the grants. So they're going to want to know how your finances work. If you're looking for a grant, what the sources are of capital and what the uses will be of capital. And those are going to be important parts of what you do in order to get your business plans together. And make sure that you've got key directions that you need to get started. That's what's going to be here. So I'm going to go through this very quickly because you probably already know these things. As an entrepreneur, you don't have to work hard, or put in long hours. Well, somebody told me yesterday that, being an entrepreneur gives you the opportunity to work those 70 hours a week any way you want. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be hard work. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you probably are not ready to start your own business. Your products and services are unique. There's no competition. Well, unless you've got an invention that's brand new and nobody else on the market has ever seen it, I'm going to tell you that your idea is probably not unique. It may be unique in parts. You may have a specific niche that's unique. But all in all, you will have competition. We will talk about competition a lot over the next 4 weeks. Business owners can deduct anything, so you don't have to pay taxes. That's not exactly true. There are a lot of laws that you have to look at, and we'll talk about some of the forms of business that you go into. And I would say that somewhere along the line, you're going to want to be able to talk to an accountant so that you know where and when and how to pay your taxes on your business. And that business owners don't have a boss. Well, I would argue that everybody you come in contact is your boss. Your employees are your boss. Your customers are your boss. Your suppliers are your boss. Everybody is your boss. So and your spouse is your boss. So or your partner. Myth five: owners get to do whatever they want to do. I don't even have to explain that one. But here's what I wanted to show you, okay? And you can get all kinds of different details on this, but a lot of businesses fail after the first year or two, and that's a real problem. And one of the reasons that they don't is because they're not planning their business properly. They're starting, they're shooting from the hip, they're making decisions without having data. And data, I mean financial data, marketing data, and data about the industry, and data about your customer, and data about your competitors. Um, and so, after 5 years, it's even worse. And I would also argue that these are generous, that it's probably a lot more failure than what is showing here. So the issue is, let's make sure that if you're going to start a business, or if you're already in business, you're planning properly. So, what are some of the critical success factors? Education and experience in the field. Don't go into a field with business if you don't have any background in that business. You'll see that Anne, as we go through this, has a background in horticulture and actually nursery background, and also is already well known in her community. Strong work ethic. I don't have to talk to you about that. Effective time management, ability to multitask, and a willingness to ask for help from others. I would also argue that if there's a successful business out there on the market right now, that business in some way or another has one or multiple people that owner or board, or whatever it is, can go to and get information and help, that again, you don't have to go it alone. And that's another place where a SCORE mentor comes in. So think about that when you do it. Listen to other input, weigh it carefully, and then decide how and what to utilize from the advice that you get. And of course, adequate capital. Most entrepreneurs go into their businesses well undercapitalized, and that's a great reason to fail. And so think about that. If you're starting a business, if you're already in business and you've got the data to know how long it's going to take you to break even, what your sales forecasts look like, what your financial forecasts look like, how much capital you're going to need. If you know that you're starting a business and you're not breaking even until 18 months out, or maybe longer or shorter, what are you living on in the meantime between the time you start that business and the time that business becomes profitable? So, a lot of what we do when we work with people on financing their business, we look at what the break even point is and how much capital they're going to need to raise in order to keep that business afloat until they begin making money and profiting from that business. So that's something else that you need to consider. Other considerations, things like tools, capital, equipment, leasehold improvements, licenses and permits. Don't go into a business where you need licensing and permits and you don't have them, because either you're breaking the law, or you can't compete with those that do have the licenses and the permits and have gone through the learning and all the things that go along with that. Professional fees. And when I say that, it is really important to have people, again, outside of your organization, an accountant, a lawyer, insurance person, and potentially some sort of a mentor to work with. And making sure, again, that you've got adequate capital to go ahead. Things to consider also are your cost of living. Do you need to cut back? Do you have outstanding debt? One of the things, if you're going for any kind of lending finance, that if you have a poor credit rating, it's going to be very difficult to get any kind of financing, because even though it's a company that you're starting, the financials are looked at based on you as an individual, personally, even if you're in a corporation starting out, or like an LLC, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And what is the total amount of money that you need in order to cover your own expenses? Don't go into it short-sighted. That's all I'm saying. Know your options, okay? So let's talk about starting a new business from scratch. Now, again, I said this is a high level overview of this. There are plenty of more advantages and disadvantages than what I'm going through. These are some of the main points. But starting a brand new business from scratch. Okay, some of the advantages are you're not hampered by somebody's previous reputation or technologies from an existing business that you might buy. And we'll talk about buying a business in a minute. And also, you are able to choose your own location, your name, your logo, all the things that go along with that, how you brand, and building on and utilizing your own relationships, and certainly exploring new markets and directions. Well, that's really exciting, for a lot of people to do it that way. But some of the disadvantages are you don't have an existing customer base, so you have no financial history. You haven't been in business before. You're going for money to start up your business, and a bank's going to want to know, do you have any financial history with this company? So you're going to go to a bank with a financial statement, or what you put together on your company, that is going to be based on forecast and not actual. Now, there's ways of doing this that are more scientific than not, but you don't have history, and history is really good if you're going in for a loan and you've got a good history financial from a previous business, or from the business that you're buying. So you're taking a bigger risk by starting from scratch. Okay, you've got no track record, and as I mentioned, it's difficult to get financing. But buying in an existing business has both advantages and disadvantages as well. Again, 40,000-foot view. Buying a business, you've got potentially have established clientele and suppliers, and potentially a known location. And that's all great. Okay, you can actually take that and build upon it. You might have to put some money in to invest in, let's say, if it's retail, a store. I saw somebody's working on nails. Now, I don't know if you're going to have a brick and mortar store, but you might be able to buy somebody out, or buy it from somebody, or get somebody else to work with you as a partner. And that's something that I don't talk a lot about. But partnerships aren't a bad way to go either, but you also have disadvantages. So the business is a known quantity with a proven formula and name. And one other way to look at that potentially is with going through. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So you've got a track record. It might be a little easier to obtain financing. There are disadvantages as well. Potentially hidden issues, skeletons in the closet you don't know about. Debt, poor reputation, loyalty to the current owner, That may mean that you want to keep that current owner with you for a while to make sure that their customers stay with you. Potentially out of date inventory or technology. You might have some transfer issues. I mean, those are things that you need to think about. And what I would tell you, if you're buying a business like this, that you want to make sure you've got a good account, because you want to be able to go back anywhere from 3 to 5 years in this business's finances and analyze those finances and make sure that you're not buying debt, and that what you buy is actually going to end up being an advantage to you to buy it. So you want to do your due diligence, work with a score mentor, work with your accountant and lawyer before you go ahead and sign any documents buying a business. Make sure you've got it. And we talked about inventory a little bit. You might have employees there, you might have issues with those employees, and there's no guarantee that the success will continue. You've got to do your homework before you make a decision to do that. Buying a franchise, and that's where I was going to go in the previous slide. When you buy a franchise, if you buy the right franchise, you could do very well. And if you think of some of the franchises that are out there right now, some of the very well-known ones are McDonald's, and some of the donut companies and some of the restaurants. And there are some great cleaning companies out there. There's some plenty of other franchises out there that make sense to buy. Okay. The advantages of buying a franchise are that you become part of a proven system with proven products and services. Now, the more successful the franchise is, the more costly it is to buy it. But there are some franchises that are inexpensive, and but you got to understand who they are, what they are, and you want to do the same due diligence with them as you would if you were buying a business from someone else. If you're buying $1 million franchise, chances are it's probably a really decent franchise. If you're buying a franchise that's going to cost you $10,000, buyer beware. Okay, I'm not saying not to do that, but really understand what you're getting for your 10 grand. So you do get some marketing and sales power from a franchisor. So the franchisor, if they're good, they're already marketing their product and services because they have actually built that company or that franchise that you're buying in advance of them actually going to market their franchise. So I'm trying to think of some of them. There's a few really good cleaning companies out there that you can get into that actually have started it. They've been successful with it, and then they became franchises. And so again, what you're buying though is things that they've already done. So potentially training and professional guidance if they're really good at what they do. They should be doing that. Continued consulting in relationship, access to other franchises for help or franchisees. And they've got a proven system. Okay. Some of the disadvantages are at this point in time limited freedom to make your own decisions. So you're not always your own boss. And you will not be able to go out there and figure out how to do any of your systems, your marketing systems, your administrative systems. Those are all already in place. You're going to be paying royalties and other fees. So if you buy a franchise, there's generally a franchise fee. It's generally off the top line revenue. So in other words, it's not based on your profit; it's based on your sales, and it's generally a percentage upfront. You're going to pay marketing fees and other royalties that go along with that. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you got to weigh your options and you got to look at your advantages and disadvantages. Binding contracts that limit your exit options. Possibly. Sometimes there are franchise companies that are looking for you to buy 3, 4, 5 locations, and that's part of the licensing. You've got to do that, but you've got to, again, go in this with your eyes wide open. Um, so, um, oh, hey, Makari. So we'll be talking later. I own a cleaning company. This is Makari, and I have been considering buying a cleaning company as well, but just learned about this a few days ago. So, Makari is one of my clients, and we'll probably talk about that this afternoon. I think we have a mentoring session. So, I'm glad you're on here, Makari. Anyway, so that's buying a franchise. One or two other small things. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. Home-based businesses, or remote businesses. Many of those are based on, e-tail of some sort or another. You've got a website, you're up and running, and you're doing that. So yeah, it's convenient. It's there's less overhead, perhaps. Flexible schedule, tax advantages, and other things. Basically, you can do business anywhere in the U.S. as well as hire people anywhere in the U.S. if everything is remote. Disadvantages, you may have zoning issues, you're isolated, you might have more difficulty finding financing, and family distractions. I mean, I was a salesperson, and when I was not on the road, I was home in my home office working. I had rules that my kids were not allowed to distract me, while I was on the phone or in business. But that's a whole nother story. I don't want to spend a lot of time there. I'd be curious to know if there's anybody on this call that is considering starting a nonprofit, and I can go into a little bit of detail there. So just text me and let me know if you are interested in starting a nonprofit. I'll go through very quickly. Um, Here's a place where you might actually qualify for some government grants or foundation grants. We can talk about that later. Basically, a nonprofit business is a mission-based business. And by mission based, I mean you are out there helping people. You are not, I repeat, making a profit that you can stick in your own pocket. You can pay yourself, okay? If you are the person that has started the nonprofit, you'll know that you need to have, okay, I've got a couple people that are potentially looking at starting a nonprofit. So you need to have a board. That board is actually responsible for managing and running that nonprofit. And you want to make sure you get the right board in there. They actually have the ability, even though you've started it, to fire you if you're not living up to the mission of the nonprofit. Any money you make stays in the nonprofit. It could be used for programming, it could be used for advertising, it could be used for paying employees, okay? And you actually can run it the way you'd run any other normal business. There are plenty of nonprofits out there in which their directors and the staff make pretty good money. So that's doable, but you are answerable to that board. Okay. Some of the disadvantages are that you've got to focus on that mission. Generally, it's educational or charitable. And as I said, you can't make a profit that you can share, either keep it for yourself or share it with anybody else. Any profits that you make have to stay within that organization. You need to qualify and apply for, this says 501c3 status, but 501c is several of the nonprofits that are out there qualify for that. SCORE is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. Most small nonprofits are 501c3s, and you do get tax exemptions. You also would end up reporting your income and taxes on a form every year with the IRS. That's all public information that companies like Candid will actually go in and put that into their database. You can look up almost any nonprofit through Candid, and they should have it just based on the tax forms that they need to fill out, which again are public. So that's kind of quick. Online business is very similar to what I talked about with the home-based businesses. So I don't want to go into a lot of discussion on that. I'd be curious also to know if there's anybody out there either starting or running an online business of some sort or another. Let's talk about some components of owning a business and getting yourself started. Um, the one thing I really want to point out, and don't take this too lightly, even though, I'm saying you've got a lot of hats to wear. I mean, you are constantly going to be thinking about your accounting. If you have people working for you, your human resources, how you want to market your business, how you're going to sell, what your customer service looks like, and production potentially and fulfillment, depending on what type of a business that you have. So, if you've got a facility, that's fine. If you're running your business out of your home, that's also fine. But don't sell yourself short on how much work you're going to be doing because you're wearing all these hats. Yes, ultimately you might want to hire people to work with you, but you're still going to be in that same position. We're going to go into marketing, and I'm going to cover most of this and I'll be the one that does this in the marketing plan workshop in the third session, 2 weeks from today, same time, same place. So, strategies that you use to create desire to purchase your goods or your product or your service. And when I talk about businesses here, we're talking about potentially manufacturers. We're talking about people that are retail. We're talking about wholesale. We're talking about business to business. So business to business is services that you might provide to another business. So if you're working directly that way, we'll talk about that going forward. And nursery is a retail business, actually some wholesale as well, you'll see. But for all intents and purposes, she's a retail business, and you'll see that later on. And as we go through that, we'll talk about the others as well. So, your branding, that's part of your marketing. We'll talk about that in more detail in the third session. I don't want to go into too much there and utilize a lot of the time that we have left. Sales is going to be very important, finding and connecting your customers. We'll talk a little bit about a sales funnel, which I think is important. Talking about bids and closing deals and processing orders. We do actually have a couple workshops on sales and marketing that you might want to consider if, in fact, a big part of your business is selling. The areas that I came from in industry when I worked, I managed sales teams for very large business to business companies and national. So that's something, as I said, you want to consider as you grow and go along. I have a question here. I just want to take a quick look at how do we register our business for Ohio taxes. I'll go through that in a minute. W-9 form or what? Yeah. So I'll talk about that probably one of the next few slides. Do you have the skills? Are you weak in any part of your operations? You can always take courses. Let's say that I've got several people that are, interested in doing home health care and things like that. There are certifications that you can get within your business, not only will help you with your skills, but also with your credibility with your potential customers. So don't, think through that as some possibilities as well. Um, Understand who needs your products. We've got a whole thing called marketing basics in another presentation that we do. If you see that coming up, take a look at that because that goes into all the discussion on your products, your services, who needs it, and all that other stuff. But we'll talk somewhat about that as we go along, value proposition and those kinds of things. So let me move forward so I don't utilize too much time. Other critical factors for your competitors, and I can't talk enough about competitors, and we'll talk about that down the road in the third session. The size of their operation, number of employees. You're competing with them. Their price, their quality, their service, reputation, strengths and weaknesses. And those are all things that we'll consider in the third session. Or if you join me with the marketing basics sessions that come up, those will be considered there as well. Your suppliers and contractors. So now let's talk about how to do that. So there are several types of business organizations. One of the handouts you will get will go through this. Sole proprietorship is I can go into business tomorrow and call myself Bob's Pretty Good Cookies, and I'm in business. Okay, I will have to pay taxes on it. I might have to pay a self-employment tax, and I will have to probably fill out a Schedule C on my taxes. Again, talk to your accountants before you do any of this. The issue with this is that I don't have any protection against liabilities. Okay. Same thing with a partner. I can go out and join somebody tomorrow and do the same thing as a sole proprietorship, call myself a partnership, but I don't have any protection from legal liability. Okay, so which is the next company? So, limited liability company, or in some cases, legal liability partnerships, corporations, partnerships. So it's LLC. So basically, what an LLC is, and you'll get more detail on this in the handouts, is um, you go on to the ohio.gov. I'm assuming everybody on this call is in Ohio. If not, you do it in your own state. But ohio.gov, when you get to that website, let's see if I have a link to it built in here. I don't. If you'd like, I can show this to you very quickly. Let me, I'll share my screen with you, and let me go to, so it's an official website for Ohio, and I'm only going to take a couple minutes. Are you able to see that screen that just came up, ohio.gov? Can somebody just give me a yes in the chat? Good. Okay, well, great. Perfect. So here you go, tools for business. Okay. I'm just going to show you this very quickly. And when you get there, you can see what the featured content is. And what I just went through with limited liability and what I'm about to go through is here as well. So here's where it says start. Here's, you can get your licenses and your permits, but here's where I would go first. Start a business. Okay. And I'm going to pull this up very quickly. Okay. And this literally walks you through everything that you need to do. For all intents and purposes, if you're starting an LLC, then it's a $99 cost. You can pay it online with a credit card. You have to fill out their information, and there's some checklists. The forms that you need are in this website. If you need more help, feel free to get a mentor to help you with that. One thing I would recommend that you do is go to the startup guide right here, and it's a piece. Let's see what we got here. It's a PDF, and it's an entire booklet. There you go, and you can go through this. It's give it a second to start up. It's by the SBA and Ohio Small Business Development Centers here in Cleveland, or in Ohio, I should say. And literally everything you need is right in this booklet. And I think there's some live links in here as well. How to register your business. So you've got to register the business name, and then you go on, you fill out the paperwork. Vendors licensing, all that stuff is in this booklet. All kinds of great information. How should I register my business? So I'm going to get out of this and let's go back to the actual presentation. So limited liability company, that means that when there is an issue, if somebody were to sue you, they would be suing the company and not you personally. And that means that they can only get basically what the company's worth or will be worth, and they can't sue you directly personally. Now, that said, there are some limitations to that as well. Go figure. But you would need to look at that. You might want to discuss that with your attorney. You might want to review it in the booklet I just told you about. A C corporation, typically a large company is a C corporation. They're issuing stock to stockholders. Most of us don't need to go there, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. An S corporation is actually a subdivision of a C corp. An S corporation is subchapter S, it's called, is whereby you actually realize the revenue from that business directly to you personally. Okay, you get all of the protections that a large corporation gets, but the C corporation is slightly different. For me and our most of the clients we work with, LLCs are the best way to go. Let's just keep it simple, but again, talk to an accountant and talk to an attorney if you can. And many attorneys will give you 30 minutes free. You can also you can call through Akron's got a through their law school a few people that are available to help you for free or at a limited cost. So if you're starting out, that's what you want to do. Look at your government regulations, and that booklet I just talked to you about has a lot of that in there. Understand, licensing, labor laws, immigration laws, IRS and Social Security, withholding if you've got employees, and workers' comp. It's not listed here, but I can't stress enough how important workers' comp is, even if you're the only one working. Okay, and especially if you hire people, because the lawsuits and the fines and penalties if something goes wrong are ridiculous. So make sure that you do that, and we can help you with that. And or you can call um, through ohio.gov. You can also look at that workers' comp, and there is a whole bureau of workers' comp. Um, think about insurance. You should have insurance for your business. If you're really small, you at least want some kind of liability or vehicle insurance. Again, I mentioned workers' comp, health insurance, life insurance. If you're a partner with a business, you might want to insure both partners and name, or it's called key, I think they call it key man or key employee or something insurance, like, that you want to make sure you get there. So make sure you've got an insurance agent that you can work with. I'm going to talk a little bit about business plan basics, and you'll see more of that as we go into the second and your third sessions, and even your fourth session on finance. So when you work on a business plan, it encourages an objective view. The one thing you don't want to do is go in there with an emotional opinion that the idea you have is the best thing since sliced bread. It may be, but it may not be. Okay, so you need to be objective. You also need to make sure that what you're trying to do in your business plan is really data driven, is not, based on, again, based on your dreams and aspirations. You don't want an aspirational business plan, because anybody that looks at that is just going to say, this is not a business plan. Okay. So I can't stress enough how important it is to work with data. How many are you going to sell? When are you going to sell them? If you're borrowing money, how much you need, how you're going to pay it back, you know, what is your competition doing? How does your pricing fit within theirs? How do you look at your business in terms of the market? What's your value proposition? All those things are part of your business plan. And that becomes a foundation for you that you can utilize year over year over year, because you put together a business plan now. You want to go back and take a look at what you forecast, how it works, and how it did work in year one, year two, when you get some real history. Because when you put together a business plan and you don't have any history, you're forecasting. So it's a great management tool. I can't stress that enough either. So it's also going to help you to articulate and then communicate your ideas back to somebody, and have people look at it. Doesn't have to be a banker. Have your mentor look at it. Work with your mentor. You could actually do this section by section with a mentor. So, just some kinds of contents that are available here. It looks as if I've got a built-in, I'm not going to go into that. Let me go back to this. Table of contents, executive summary. The executive summary is something that you probably would write after the rest of the business plan is done. It summarizes what you've got in the whole business plan. If you're pitching your business to a partner, to a funder, to a foundation, what you want to be able to do is give them the opportunity to see the highlights in there. It might talk about what your business is, what your value for your business is, what your potential forecasts look like, or if you're already in business, what your history looks like, what you're forecasting going forward. Those kinds of things you could do very succinctly. It should be one page, two at the most. Okay. And then you actually get into the business where you're articulating that business. We'll talk about that over the next 3 weeks. Your financial forecast, which we'll talk a little bit about in the fourth session, and then some of the supporting detail that goes along with that. So I'm not getting into the business plan in any detail. You will be handed a copy of Ann's nursery to look at, a great model, and we'll use that as uh, as kind of a model going forward. So it's a good case study. Let's see, we've got 10 minutes left. I already talked about a banker, a lawyer, accountant, insurance agent, and a mentor. So then what I'd like you to do is go through this business readiness assessment. If you already got this, uh, goodness, I don't know why it wants me to sign in. So I'm not going to sign in. It's a very simple thing. You rate yourself. You'll want to make sure that you think that you know something about your business. And, I would also think that at the end of the fourth or fifth session, you take a look at this again and see if you've gained anything. Oh, here it is. Good. So I don't need to go into it. Um, you know, um, the feasibility of your idea. You have identified your market, how you're going to implement, how you might get funding, and your basic readiness to do that. Those are things that I would look at. Those are all parts of what you would do when you establish your business and put your plan together in the first place. So and be honest with yourself. If you don't know what you want to do, or you don't know how you want to do it, don't give yourself a high number. Um, and then let's write a vision statement for your business. Okay. We can go through these things next week if you like. But the overall purpose of your business, this is all going to end up being part and parcel for you to put into this business plan as you develop it, and also to think about the feasibility of the business idea you have. Describe the products and services that you're providing, and explain the important benefits of the or values that you have for your business. Okay, and that's one of the handouts as well. So at the next session, we'll talk a little bit about some of that. And then now what? So I would, go ahead and sign up for Simple Steps 2. Come to that. Again, it includes, feel free to sign up with a mentor if you're doing that. Begin testing the feasibility of your business or multiple business ideas, and begin working on your business plan and your financials. Um, Ann's Nursery, again, is available to you. You should probably get a link to that tomorrow. Also, if you wanted to go to the SCORE website, you can actually pull up a business plan template to start working on if you want to do it that way. There are several guides that you can pull up online. One is called the Business Model or Business Plan Startup. If you are in a very simple business and you don't need to go into a multi-page business plan, you can take a look at there are 2 or 3 short form business plans, which are called business model canvases. Go on SCORE and look up business model canvas in the search bar, and it'll pull up several things, including workshops and templates about business model canvases. So there's a lot of really great information out there. There's a 12-part series on starting your business. I think this Simple Steps series also, there's stuff online for it. So here's what's going to happen, and I'll take some questions. Next week, we're going to talk about business concepts, and that's really articulating your business, understanding your industry, understanding your competitors, and thinking through the tools that you need to actually do the research to get information like that for your business plan. Think about if you were to loan somebody money to start their business, what are the things that you're going to want to know about the industry and the business that they're going into before you departed with your money and giving it to them or investing it in their business? Well, that's what investors are going to look at with you as well. So think that through as well. And if you don't have a great idea and you decide it's not feasible to do it, think of something else or think of a better way to do it that is feasible. I think that is it. So at this point in time, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to ask you if you've got any more questions. Let me take a quick look at the chat. So I think I answered that one. Let me go find the chat. Um, Doesn't look like I have much in chat. Maybe I'm missing it. Here we go. Cleaning company, considering a nonprofit. Let's see what else we have. Can you show me the path again? Um, Not sure what you meant by that. Okay, I found it. Good. Never mind. I see some thank yous there. If there's anything else, if there's any questions, how can we get an accountant and where can we look? Um, what I would do is go to the SCORE website and find an accountant and see if there's some information there. There will be some stuff. Now, SCORE Cleveland has a website that's primarily for SCORE mentors. I it's something where I can pull it up and give you the information that's on there. We actually have some accountants that we talk to. It's very important that you vet your own accountant, even if I give you that information. So if you'll bear with me a second, we still got a couple minutes. I'll show you the SCORE portal. It's not something you can get in, but a SCORE mentor can. So let me do that and I'll share it with you. So just bear with me a sec. I actually took a client through this the other day. Once I find it, I'll share it with you. We have a reference guide online that we keep up as we can. I'm going to move this into my other screen and share it with you. Actually, I can share it from here. Bear with me. I think you'll see this. You all seen this? It says Cleveland Reference Guide, accounting and bookkeeping. Now, again, we talk to some people, we contact them. Some of them we've worked with directly, some of them we haven't. So if I were to give you a list of these, you want to be able to um, vet them on your own. But we also have attorneys listed as well. So if you want to and you want to send me an email, I'll try and put a list together that I can forward on to you from. I can give you both the accountants that are on this list as well as the legal. I'm assuming these are all attorneys of some sort or another. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to the Q&A and let me just move this over to my other screen. Doesn't look like it can. Okay, what factors should we consider when vetting an accountant? First of all, I would consider depending on what you need. Okay, look, if you need somebody to help you set up a set of books and help you with your taxes, then you want somebody, I would say close in proximity, but it doesn't have to be. And I would call them. I'd ask about pricing. I would ask about what services they offer, so that you could pick from a list of services. You want somebody that minimal would be able to do your taxes on an annual basis. If you've got the money and you can afford it, somebody that would be help you to keep your books, and some accountants can do that. If you can keep your own books, that's great. And just begin getting the pricing on that. See if you can afford them. Also, then go out and take a look at um, surveys that might be out there, or ask them to let you talk to a client of theirs, or look at who their clients are and see if you fit that profile.